Jambo, jambo bwana, habari gani? Nzuri sana, wageni wakaribishwa Kilimanjaro, hakuna matata, wageni karibuni.
Well, last year I showed up here with very little insight into what I was doing, insight what was about to come. The planning of the climb was done poorly. And it wasn't the guides, it was the people that put it together. As they said, 7 days. It'll take. We have this route. It takes 7 days, and we'll give him 7 days to do it. And they have no idea how fast or how slow I move on a trail. And I was doing 14-hour days and getting in at 1 a.m. and just really, really working myself over. And it got to a critical point where we're thinking about these days that were supposed to be 5-hour days but turn into 13. And if we had to stay on a schedule to where our summit day was going to be 14 hours or 12 hours for the normal person, how long is it going to take me? It's going to take me a day and a half, 36 hours probably. And that's just not going to happen. So I had to make the decision, realizing that maybe I could push to the top, but I couldn't get to the bottom, and wanted to, remain healthy and be able to walk off the mountain instead of roll off the mountain. I decided to leave, so to turn around and to head back. And so as I was walking down the mountain, I started talking with the guides. Was very angry about the way things have been put together, and it wasn't the guides again. It wasn't their issue. They, in fact, the main guide come up to me and he said, if I would have known, we would have done things differently. We would have gotten this permit that would allow us to set camp anywhere. We'd look at more time. We'd have a lot more flexibility. And I said, let's do it. Let's do it next year. And I mean that. Tell me how much it costs. And I wanted to know, that's the only way I could feel good about leaving, was if I had something in my mind for the next year. And then it just started to develop. And along the way, I talked to Dan Evans, a friend of mine, double amputee, about what I wanted to do, and he said, count me in, I want to do it too. And at this point we're talking, no sponsorship, nothing, just two guys one guy, myself, trying to fulfill a goal that wasn't even really a goal until there was failure. And then I was having lunch with Kirk Bauer and proposed it to him, and sort of rolled into a DSUSA sponsored event, and we spent the next 6 months just planning. This year we had the foresight. Those guys that hadn't been here had me to ask questions to. I was able to fill them in on a lot of things that not only just from a person's perspective that had already kind of been here and had gone through those steps, but an amputee's perspective, what you need, how you train, the best ways to prosthetic fitting, and what you need to do to be successful on the mountain as an amputee and just as a climber. And we put together packing lists. Everybody started working very closely. Everybody trained hard. We all in every corner of the country. And everybody had their own regiment, and was really motivated about it. And we got on the mountain, and we succeeded without any huge incidents. We didn't, everybody prepared well. It showed that the preparation and planning, preparation and equipment, preparation and training, all came together, and put the three of us on top. Well, the highs, of course, the three of us, being on top of Kilimanjaro. The lows, well, there were, for me personally, climbing the ascent from 15,000 feet to 19,000 feet through the loose rock and the gravel, where I felt like I was taking 2 steps for every 1 step gain, or 1 step gained. That was one of the most difficult moments, one of the most frustrating moments I had, because there's nothing worse than, putting all this effort into something and feeling like you're going nowhere. But we made it, and I was very thankful to get out of that rock. A low point was to see Dan go, to see Dan roll, get into that stretcher and roll off the mountain, because he summited, and that's a huge accomplishment. But for him not to be part of that descent with us was, we're missing a piece of the team. That was another low point. It was good that he was at the gate, when we finished, so he could be part of sort of the crossing the finish line, if you will. If somebody were to ask me, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, can I do it? Without even knowing their situation, I could say yes, because it just has to be done correctly with the right preparation, the right planning. Anybody can make it to the top of the mountain with the right training, the right route selection, the allowing for certain flexibility. Anybody can do it, but it takes the motivation and the determination to be able to get to that point. So whether it's an amputee or even somebody who might be paralyzed and has to do it on an arm bike, it's been done. The precedent's there. People have done it. People have made it to the peak, and so it's all about the individual and whether they're willing to commit enough and be able to provide the determination necessary to succeed and get to the top of the mountain.
Jambo, jambo bwana, habari gani, nzuri sana, wageni wakaribishwa, Kilimanjaro, hakuna matata.
All right, nice job.
All right.